Hey, this is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel. Now, who's ready for some fighting words? In this video, I want to do a fight breakdown for Savannah Marshall versus Claressa Shields. And if you're new to the channel, you don't know quite how I do it. Basically, I just do a mirror image of both competitors. I put them side by side. I ask them very, very simple questions, and you either get a check or you don't. That's basically how it's done. And without further ado, let's jump on into it. So first, we're going to start with experience. Honestly, they both pretty much have around the same amount of fights. I mean, professionally. However, I'm going to give this to Claressa Shields because the level of competition that she has faced. She's been in more championship fights, and also when you look at who she has fought versus Savannah Marshall, you'll see that Savannah Marshall's past opponents don't have the best records in the world. You know, one of the girls had like 35 losses and like 5 wins or something like that. So I'm going to go with Claressa Shields for experience. Ring IQ, again, I'm going to go with Claressa Shields right here. Once again, based on the fact that she's fought more champions. She's defended more times and she's fought more champions. But also when you look at the amount of people that she's fought, and you look at their records versus the people whom Savannah Marshall has fought, and you look at their records, there's a clear difference when you're looking at them. A lot of Savannah Marshall's, past competitors are nothing to brag about when you look at their records. So once again, I gotta go with Claressa Shields. Power. Now, this is obvious. We're gonna go with Savannah Marshall. She hits hard. She has a lot more knockouts than Claressa Shields. However, again, when you look at the competition, it's kind of no wonder she has those knockouts, but still, you got to give credit where credit is due. She doesn't find her competition. She just knocks out whoever is placed in front of her. So you have to give Savannah Marshall the credit for it. She has a lot more knockout power than Claressa Shields, and notably more one-punch knockout power. Confidence. Honestly, this is a tie. They both have confidence. They just exude it in different ways. Claressa Shields is more boastful. And sometimes when you say things out loud, you kind of force yourself to believe what you're thinking or what you're saying. If you hear something enough, you actually just believe it. Floyd Mayweather would say like hundreds of times in one session, nobody's better than me. And if you say something over and over and over again, you build that up within yourself, and you're building up your confidence. You're building up your self-belief. You're just building yourself up. You're building an armor mentally, and that is not easily broken. Then you have Savannah Marshall, who's, the silent assassin, and she handles things in a much more silent way. But you can clearly see the confidence exuding off of her. And it's hard not to be confident when you're knocking, your opposition out. It's one thing to win, unanimously like Claressa Shields does, but it's something else to say the judges will not be needed. Like literally, that in itself says it all. The judges will not be needed tonight. I'm knocking my competition out. You will not be needed. So clearly this one, also, I'm going to say this is a tie. Speed. Claressa Shields, I have to give her the speed factor. Much of her game is based upon speed. She's not a knockout artist or anything like that, so she has to rely on her speed. She has gone down and up in weight in her past, and again, if you're going up in weight to fight somebody, you have to rely on speed. And naturally, she's always had the speed anyway, just because growing up, she was fighting men, she was fighting boys. So again, she knew she wasn't going to be stronger than the person across the ring from her, so she had to rely on speed, and it clearly shows that she still relies on speed. And one of the main factors of this fight is the speed factor. Is Savannah Marshall going to be able to slow her down? Will Savannah Marshall try a body attack to slow her down? What is she going to do to nullify the speed of Claressa Shields? Footwork. So they both have great footwork. Claressa Shields is more fundamental. When you look at Savannah Marshall, she's just more light on her feet. She kind of floats around even in a bit. She kind of hops from side to side. She's a little bit ambidextrous, where she can just go from side to side and she can fight off either angle. It really doesn't matter. But when you look at Claressa Shields, it's just more textbook. And I think that's the tail of the tape between these two. You have one person that isn't textbook, and you have somebody who is textbook. And again, styles make fights. And that's another reason why I think this fight's going to be amazing, because the footwork of this fight is going to be very important as well. Will Savannah Marshall be able to cut off the ring? Will Claressa Shields be able to get out of the way? Will she be able to angle off? Will she have enough smarts and ring IQ to back up in certain spots? You know, does she know when to press forward with a power puncher? These are things that are going to be answered. But when it comes to the footwork, I feel like that's a tie as well. Creativity. This is another hard one, only because Claressa Shields kind of wins every single round, and then Savannah Marshall ends up knocking her opponents out. But I feel like in terms of creativity, again, based upon the opponents that she's fought, you know, like Christina Hammer, you know, like she's fought some people who didn't have blemishes. You know, you got to give it to Claressa Shields, because now she has to try to figure something out, you know, but at the same time, initially this was going to be a tie. And now that I'm saying it out loud, I think it might be a tie again, because, you know, Savannah Marshall doesn't always look like she has a game plan in there. She just kind of, there's something, how do I say this? There's a sensitivity when you're fighting. It's almost like a dance, you know, and Savannah Marshall, you can tell that she's just feeling out her opponent. You know, well, if you do this, I'm going to do this, you know, but sometimes if you do this, I just naturally do this. And I feel like that's what Savannah Marshall does a lot of times. She'll just kind of go with the flow of her opponents, you know, but for the most part, they kind of just succumb to power and they back off. And because they back off, again, you don't necessarily have to stick to a game plan or anything like that, or, you know, have a certain attack set up because they're already backing off from you. So technically, I would say that in itself is creativity, because you could veer off from whatever game plan maybe you did have, just going into the flow, because now you've turned from a boxer to a shark, you know, in a matter of moments, again, because of how hard she hits. And then you have Claressa Shields, who, you know, she can stick to the game plan. She may stick to a game plan. She hardly ever veers off from it, but she throws a lot of punches. So honestly, thinking about it, this is definitely a tie as well, because it's kind of hard to say. I mean, both of them have perfect records, so it really is kind of hard to say. But I would definitely say creativity, just because of the way she fights. She's so relaxed and in her approach when she's fighting. Actually, I'm going to lean this towards Savannah Marshall in terms of creativity in the ring, honestly, because I've seen her lead with hooks. I've seen her lead with jabs, of course, but I've also seen her lead with hooks. I've seen her, you know, go from orthodox to southpaw with just hooks, you know, and in one movement. You know, I've seen her do those things. So I think creativity, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm saying it out loud, I think I'm going to give that to Savannah Marshall. Defense. I'm definitely going to have to say Claressa Shields. Again, because she's not a power puncher, she does push her opponents back, but her opponents do push her back from time to time, and she has gone up against larger, you know, women in the past, and you need defense. And I've seen her. So this is the reason why I'm giving it. Let me just say why I'm giving it to Claressa Shields first. I'm giving it to her because she has different looks of defense. Savannah Marshall, for the most part, she just moves her head and she'll kind of lean back. Why? Because she's tall, she has long arms. She knows if she leans back, she can hit you still, but you won't be able to hit her. So she'll just lean back, she'll kind of sway out of the side. She'll do little things like that, but she won't necessarily get herself out of positioning in terms of her footwork, and she hardly ever changes her guard. When you look at Claressa Shields, she will change her guard. She will do a high guard. She'll even do the old George Foreman and do the crossface over here. You know, so because of that, I'm going to give her defense. Durability. Okay, so Savannah Marshall is kind of like a ball and chain. She's just wrecking through things. So her defense, not to say that she doesn't, being durable, she doesn't necessarily need to have durability, but she does because the way she fights, she is aggressive. She's in a line of fire. However, I'm going to give this to Claressa Shields because she has been put down before. That's why I'm going to give her durability. Also, again, just championship fights. Like it's grueling, it's tough. You're fighting at a championship level. And I'm not saying that's the biggest reason in the world, but still, it's a reason. It's a reason to give this person a nod. So I'm definitely going to give that to Claressa Shields. Strength, Savannah Marshall. But then again, Claressa Shields again. These two are so kind of evenly matched. It's kind of hard to do the breakdown, because they're so evenly matched. So Claressa Shields is strong on her lower half. She has big legs, big powerful legs. She knows how to push people back. However, you have Savannah Marshall, who's stronger in the upstairs. She is much broader back. She's strong arms. So, it just depends on the positioning. It depends on the location in the ring. It depends on if you're in the ropes or if you're in a corner. It depends on if you're in the center of the ring. It really just depends on positioning. So because it depends on positioning, I'm going to give both of them a tie. Now we come into versatility. And again, I'm going with Claressa Shields. I just feel like she's more versatile simply because she's had more championship fights and she's fought a higher caliber of women in the ring. And because of that, she's had to adapt more so than Savannah Marshall. I'm not saying Savannah Marshall didn't have to adapt to anything, but when you're fighting somebody with 35 losses and 5 wins, I think it's safe to say, when you're walking down, this walkway, when you're walking out of a dressing room, I think it's safe for you to feel comfortable in knowing that you can get this chick up out of here. Why? Because somebody's gotten her up out of there 35 times. So I think it's safe to say you can get her up out of there. Claressa Shields, on the other hand, she's had to fight some real tough people. And if for nothing else, she's a 2-time Olympian. So clearly versatility. That means you're fighting everybody around the globe. And you basically matched up against every style that was placed in front of you. And you come out victorious. So Claressa Shields. Heart and grit. This is the last one. Heart and grit. Again, I'm going with Claressa Shields. Why? Because she's been put down. Why? Because she's a 2-time Olympian. Why? Because she's faced tougher opposition. She's had more championship fights. And for that, she has more heart and grit. Savannah Marshall, to my knowledge, I don't believe she's ever been put down. If I am wrong, please, write that down in the comments. But I don't believe she's ever been put down. To my knowledge, she's always been, the aggressor. To my knowledge, she's always been on the up and up. To my knowledge, she's never been in a space or a situation in a ring where there was a possibility where she may not come out on top. There has been a moment, at least a moment, with Claressa Shields. And for that, she gets grit and she gets heart. That's not to say that Savannah Marshall does not possess this. Sometimes, again, like I said, styles make fights. And sometimes it's your opponents who bring that out of you. Obviously, if Claressa Shields is put on the canvas and she gets back up, well, her opponent brought that out of her. So I'm not saying that Savannah Marshall doesn't have that deep inside. What I'm saying is she has not had to display that as of yet. And until she does, Claressa Shields gets grit and heart. Now, last but not least, both sides, what do they have to do? I think Savannah Marshall has to nullify the speed of Claressa Shields. I think she has to cut off the ring if she's going to be successful. I think these two things are huge. I also think she has to nullify the pace of the fight. Okay, I'm not saying try to keep up with Claressa Shields' pace because I don't think she can. But you need to either find a way to slow her down and make it so she doesn't throw as many punches per round, or, you're going to be in big trouble. Because if it goes to the decision, and there's a possibility it can go to the decision, you're not going to be on the up and up. I look at Claressa Shields. She has to humble herself and not stand in front of Savannah Marshall. She has to not just tee off and then stand there like she tends to do from time to time. She can't do that. because Savannah Marshall is a great counterpuncher, and Savannah Marshall will take full advantage of when you stop that little combination that you throw. And so Claressa Shields, if you look at a lot of her combinations, she likes to end with a body shot. And that would be right up the alley of Savannah Marshall because she's going to be throwing that hook. So that's not going to go well for her if she does that. So that's another reason why she needs to veer off. You know, depending on what side, I still think she needs to veer out of there. I don't think she needs to do her little combination and then stand there, as she tends to do. And she tends to talk a lot as well after she does a combination. That wouldn't be wise as well. I do know she doesn't like Savannah Marshall. As we all know, she's very vocal about that. I would advise her, especially the people around her, to continually tell her to not, although they're in a fight, not make it emotional. I don't think it'll play well in her favor. She does talk a lot in all her fights, but I think this one is by far the most personal, and I also think this one by far stings the most because Savannah Marshall knows how to get under her skin. So if she goes in there emotional, she can look for things that aren't there. She can look for a knockout that just, it's not there. And she could run into something that could, you know, really get her in trouble. And she could go to the canvas this time and she may not be able to get back up. Or if she gets back up, she may not be able to fight her way out of it once she gets back up. So that's just something for her to do. I think both of them need to go to the body. I think Claressa Shields needs to go to the body so that Savannah Marshall will drop her hands even lower. Savannah Marshall keeps her hands, especially her lead hand, pretty low. But if Claressa Shields were to go to the body, she'd drop them even lower, and that would only help her and teeing off and throwing all those fast combinations. And then you have Savannah Marshall. If she were to go to the body, I think it would help her even more because Claressa Shields, one, would not have her speed with her legs, and two, she won't be able to throw as many punches as she throws. And I also think when it comes to the ring, you know, Savannah Marshall really needs to cut that thing off. She needs to cut it off early. She needs to let Shields know we're in a fight. You're in a fight tonight, and we're going to duke it out. We're not going to play a little chess match. We're not going to have a boxing match. We're not doing any of that. We're going to fight. You said a lot of things. Put up or shut up. And that's basically it. I do have, looking at the tally, I have Claressa Shields winning. I think it will be, you know what? It's funny because I keep thinking that there could possibly be a knockout, only because of Savannah Marshall's confidence in the ring. I know she's not going to back up, and I know Claressa Shields isn't going to back up, but I don't know if Savannah Marshall is going to throw the amount of jabs and jabbing early and then throw a lot of them. I don't know if she's going to do that. I also don't know if she's going to cut off the ring and do that at the same time. So that's the one thing. I feel like when it comes down to both fighters, I feel like Savannah Marshall has to tweak herself a little bit more than Claressa Shields. Claressa Shields more or less has to tweak her mentality and humble herself, while Savannah Marshall has to actually make adjustments. And I think that's the difference. I do have Claressa Shields winning. I'm going to say a unanimous decision, but for some strange reason, I keep feeling like there's going to be a knockout only because I know Savannah Marshall is not the type of person that's going to back down. She's going to be there. She's going to be there in your face all night long. But I do have Claressa Shields winning, and I think to play it safe, I'm going to say a unanimous decision. So there are my thoughts. I know this was a long one. Drop your thoughts down below. Tell me what you think. And as always, please like, please share, please subscribe to my channel.